Yes,
Just wanted
hi.
to mention that this past weekend, I emptied our 55-gallon water storage drum,
Oh,
it
right.
out, and then refilled it. So I can talk about that if anybody is interested.
I would love to hear about it, please.
Shall I talk about it now?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. We're talking about water storage in a large barrel.
Exactly right. So you purchase the kind of barrel that's specifically manufactured to store water for a long time. There's a chemical small bottle that you purchase along with it that gets added to the 55 gallons of water. You purchase a hose that's designed specifically for potable water, not a garden hose. And so 5 years ago, we purchased and filled a 55-gallon drum, stored it in our garage, not sitting on concrete. You're told that the concrete can leach chemicals into the water. So some kind of a board or two by fours holding the barrel up. This past weekend, I got the pump out and opened the barrel and pumped all the water out and tasted it at varying stages. So first water was the water from the bottom of the barrel that came up through the tube into the pump. Later, it was the middle of the barrel, and I detected a little bit of a chlorine taste or a bleach kind of a taste, a small amount, not enough to make it not drinkable, um, but just a small amount. That's from the water from the bottom of the barrel. When it came to the water from the middle of the barrel, there was less. Yeah, that's exactly it. There was less of that taste. And then I experimented a little bit with putting some water in the refrigerator and drinking it when it was cold, and that helped a great deal. So I'm very encouraged. 5 years worth of stored water, and it clearly could have been used not just for bathing, but also for drinking and cooking.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. I'm excited to get mine started. So, we are on class number 6. Again, delighted you guys are here. Before we start, yes, this is recorded. Yes, you'll have homework. If there's any questions, please put them in the chat to me and I'll get to them probably close to the end. And if there's any specific questions you have about a very unique situation, I'm happy to answer that kind of at the very, very end of class. So, what should my plan look like? This was really a fun class to put together because this whole topic makes me a little crazy. I've studied this for a while online and I haven't really gotten great answers to my questions. So just did some research. So first, to plan smartly, you have to know your hazards. It's not a one size fits all. You really have to know what you're planning for in your part of the country. So we're going to look at that. These are Seattle's top hazards. The city of Seattle does this evaluation, this analysis, and they've done it for a while now. They update it every year, and then about it, I think it's every 5 years, they do a really big, deep scrub upgrading to the process. They are talking to seismologists and geologists and climate change folks and the police and the fire and the hospitals and everybody they can think to talk to, meteorologists. And they are gathering all the latest information and then they rank our hazards. The whole document is called the SHIVA, the Seattle Hazard Identification and Vulnerability Analysis document. I have a link to that. I believe it's on the handout. I forget where. If you're dying to read it, it's a very long document. It explains the procedure of how they rank all these things. But anyway, this is how they're ranked. A lot of folks ask me about volcanoes. They are number 18 on the list. Not a big deal. And then obviously earthquakes are number 1. And earthquakes are high, not because we have lots of earthquakes, but because if we did have one, it would mess up so many of our systems. Our power grid, our cell phones, our running water, gas leaks, fires, damage to the roads, transportation, everything pretty much that we rely on it would be impacted if we had an earthquake, especially a big one. And then the next ones you would they're easy to imagine because we have them all the time. Snow and ice problems, windstorms, power outages. The list is not very shocking at all. What I want to point out is that of the top 9, 7 of them, we pretty much just stay in place. We do not do a lot of running here in Seattle. We do not evacuate. Most everything we do is a shelter in place kind of scenario. We don't have hurricanes. So we don't get a 3-day warning for a hurricane. Most of our disasters we handle by sitting in place and kind of waiting them out. So that'll impact how we plan. Why do I need a plan? And the reason you do this is because you might not be able to communicate. That's incredibly common after earthquakes, or you just can't think clearly. It's the middle of the night, you are scared, your thinking is disrupted, it's happening too fast, you just can't believe it's happening, you can't think clearly. That is not the time to develop a plan because you're just not going to do well. We don't do well under stress like that. So again, communications, or there's just no time to plan, like a house fire. And peace of mind is super important. I am all about that. I want you to start your planning with this scenario. Think about it being a Thursday, middle of January, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So it is getting dark. It is cold and rainy and dark. That's a very common scenario, at least in the winter, here in Seattle. So plan for that kind of time frame. And I say Thursday at 3 because I want everybody to be out and about. Let's pretend it's not COVID and more of us are working outside of our homes. More of us are in schools, we're out shopping, we're out living our lives, we're out and about. Assume you can't communicate, but if you could, what would you say to one another? And then take that option away, and that's your plan. You're going to do what you would have done if you could have communicated with one another. So I'm going to talk through my family's plan. And hopefully that'll hit a lot of the points that you need to think about when you're doing your own plan. So this is my family. It is Anne. I'm in the Northeast Seattle area. I do work from home, so I'm up here a lot. I have a teenager who pre-COVID was in the Seattle Center. That's where he went to school. And then my partner, my team's dad, is down in Beacon Hill. So that's where we are on a Thursday afternoon in the middle of January, 3 p.m. We're scattered across the city like that. So let's pretend there's an earthquake. The first thing we're going to do is drop cover and hold on because we all know to do that. The next thing we're going to do is check on those around us. And then we're going to control utilities because everybody in my family knows that's important and knows how to do it. And then we're going to communicate. We're going to try and reach one another. And this is how we do it. We're going to text because text is best. And remember, we're going to make those texts count. We're not going to go, oh my God, what was that? We are going to report how we're doing, where we are, and what the plan is. I'm at home, I'm fine, I'm staying put. It's 3 p.m. So that's what I'm going to put in my text. And I'm going to put that to both of my family members and to my out of town contact person. And if you were in that class, my out of town contact person is my mother-in-law in Las Vegas. And yours needs to be something similar. They need to be Spokane, Washington, or further east. Spokane, Washington, or further east. You don't want them north, you don't want them south. You don't want them impacted by the same earthquake that you're impacted by. My 2 family members and my out of town contact person are all on that text chain. And again, I'm making it count. I'm putting good information out there. And then my mother-in-law can forward that information down to the other 2 members on the ground if they're not getting it. We have reached out and we're trying to communicate with one another. We're using our out of town contact to make that happen. And then in my case, we also have GMRS radios. And I won't go into that now. That's, like I said, that's a whole class all by itself. GMRS radios work even if there's no cell phone signal or Wi-Fi signal. This is our plan. We've communicated. My spouse down in Beacon Hill is a healthcare professional, so he will stay there and he'll work for a while. That is the plan. We know it. There's no way around it. It's what he should be doing. So he's going to be down there working for a while. When he is able to leave, he walks up and grabs my teenager in the Seattle Center. That's at least a 3-hour walk, if not quite a bit more. We anticipate him not being able to drive because we believe the roads will be torn up, bridges will be down, overpasses will be closed, all kinds of stuff. So we do not anticipate walking anywhere in this plan. I'm sorry, we don't anticipate driving. If he can drive, that's great, but we don't anticipate it. So he walks up to grab my teen. They provide aid there again because my spouse is a healthcare provider. My team knows tons of really useful information in a disaster. So they can hang out there and provide aid. Again, my team is in the Seattle Center. So a lot of tourists in that area. And maybe they spend the night. Just depends on what time my husband gets there. They will try and get information on the bridges because they have to get across the ship canal. The type of GMRS radios we have, they can listen in to ham radio signals. They can't talk on as ham radio operators, but they can listen in and maybe they can find some information about the bridge. What bridges are passable? You can see the circle there. That's the area I'm concerned about that's the latest area I'm concerned about is trying to be able to help my family get back up to Northeast Seattle to join me up there, because that is the plan that's the goal of our whole plan, is to get our family together. And for our family, we're going to meet back home. Once they start that trek from Seattle Center up to Northeast Seattle, it's at least 4 hours, if not quite a bit longer, depending on how much damage they have to walk through. And then, so I did a little bit of research. There are actually 8 bridges that go across the ship canal. There's the names of all of them. This will be available to you in another format. I don't want you to spend time reading this now. Lots of information about whether or not it's been retrofitted and all that kind of stuff. The only bridge that I could find that had been retrofitted was the Aurora Bridge, and that was done in 2012, and they are considering that done. The Ship Canal Bridge, which is number 6 on that list, they started in 2000, but it is not complete. And the Ballard Bridge and the Fremont Bridge are on the list to be retrofitted in 2022, but it looks like because of money that will be delayed. This is the Aurora Bridge. This is the Ship Canal Bridge, which again is partially retrofitted. This view is the Seattle Hazard Explorer. This is a tool that's online. You can zoom down to wherever it is you live in Seattle, and you can figure out the hazards that are right where you're looking. This is the tab in this tool called liquefaction. When the earth quakes and the ground is very saturated, the water bubbles up, the dirt sinks to the bottom, and it kind of acts like quicksand. Things sink. And then when the earth stops shaking, when the earthquake's over with, everything turns back to hard dirt again. But your car or your building or whatever has sunk and it's stuck. So that's what happens in liquefaction. So I really wanted to see what the liquefaction looked like on the sides of the ship canal. The Aurora Bridge looks really good. Neither side of that bridge should have a lot of damage from liquefaction, but the Ship Canal Bridge a little bit more difficult. And that might be why the retrofit is taking a while. That might be why it's so expensive, is because they have to deal with that liquefaction on either side. The other areas I wanted to look at were these 2 cuts. This is the Fremont cut, and this is the Montlake cut. Way back when they were trying to join Lake Washington, which is over here on the far right, and Lake Union, which is in the middle, and Puget Sound, which is far left, they had to cut passages in here. These passages are man-made. This was not done by nature, and there's very little liquefaction on either side of those cuts. So another thing I found in the Seattle Hazard Explorer was landslides. So the yellow on this map are where landslides are probable. And usually it just means that the land is sloped there. It's not all that shocking. The red dots are where there actually have been landslides in the past. Whether it was from an earthquake or it was just a lot of rain and some of the dirt slipped. You can tell on this slide that there is a little bit of possibility of some landslide action right there by the Fremont cut, but really not much at all by the Montlake cut. So again, I'm showing all this to my husband. I don't really know the answer. I don't know where the best spot for him to cross, but I'm starting to gather the information, trying to get him across this ship canal safely. This is the kind of stuff I want you to think about as you're talking about your plan. And the goal of your plan is to get your household back together. And maybe that's back at your home base. Maybe it's not. Maybe the most logical place is somewhere else, not at your house. It really just depends on where everybody is on a Thursday afternoon and what makes the most sense. Talk to work. What needs to happen at work before you can take off? Start talking to your boss. If you are the boss, figure it out, and make those plans ahead of time and let your employees know what needs to be done before they can take off. The city offers free training to businesses to help them talk through that plan. I urge everyone to take advantage of it. I think it's an amazing options. School plan. So if you have young kids that are in school, we're going to talk about this in just a second, and it's something called a reunification plan. So you need to figure out how you're going to be able to pick up your kids in the middle of the day kind of thing. If you have pets, where are they during the day? Who's going to take care of them? If it's going to take you a day to walk home or half a day to walk home and they're freaked out at home by themselves, do you have a neighbor that can walk over and just check on them, make sure they're okay? I think we've talked about this before where maybe somebody needs to be picking them up and putting them in a kennel so that they're not walking around on broken glass. So think about pets. Is there anybody in your life or in your home that has special needs, elderly parents, anything like that, that you need to build into your plan, somebody that's counting on you? It's all of those things that you need to think about when you're designing your own plan. So we're going to talk about the school reunification plan. The little pegs on the right there are representing kids. The ones on the left are representing adults. So the reason you have a reunification plan is your normal 2:45, all the second graders go home at the same time, they all get picked up at the same time, or they board the bus or whatever. That whole process is disrupted if something happens in the middle of the day and parents are coming in at any hour. Some are coming in really quickly because they're close by, and some are a day and a half away because they're having to walk from Renton or whatever. This reunification plan makes sure that every child goes home with the right adult. It's a very slow, painful, methodical process, but it's important. The kids are all hustled together. Adults, they meet outside the school. You do not come inside the school and go to your kid's classroom and grab your kid and walk out. That is shut down. So adults, make sure you bring photo ID. You cannot pick up your child without photo ID. What happens is one by one, they will pair the right child with the right adult, and y'all will leave, probably out the back door so that you're not running the gauntlet of adults out front asking what's going on with their child. Talk to your school administrators about the school reunification plan. Make sure you understand it if you have kids in school, and then build that into your program, your plan. Next, we're going to talk about your get home bag. The reason you have a get home bag is because we really believe that earthquake is strong enough, you are walking home. So you need stuff with you in order to make that walk home manageable and as comfortable as possible. These are the things that you should have in your get home bag. And this is on your handout for the class tonight. It's stuff that makes perfect sense. If you had to sit down and think about this, it's exactly what you would put in it. So everything in the get home bag will make a lot of sense. Make sure you write down those phone numbers. Remember that 3x5 card we talked about? Write down those emergency phone numbers. So even if your phone dies, maybe you can borrow somebody else's and contact the folks that you care about. Make sure you put your out of town contact phone number on that list and make this get home bag. And you're going to stick it in your car, underneath your desk at work if you have a desk, in your commuter bag, whatever you take going back and forth to work. just in the places that make sense for you. The next thing we're going to talk about, and this is on your to-do list, is make sure that you have a navigation app on your phone that works offline. Even if there's no cell phone signal or Wi-Fi signal, you can navigate home using these apps. So you're completely offline, but it will help you get home after any kind of significant disaster like an earthquake or a hurricane or a tornado. It is really hard to find your way home because the normal landmarks that you count on are not there. Any kind of mapping, GPS, any kind of aid to get you home will be very, very helpful. Emergency supplies. I'm going to talk about three different kinds. The stay box, this is what I call it. The stay box is what you have at home, in your home, and that's 2 weeks of whatever you're going to need to get through. It's 2 weeks of food, 2 weeks of water, toileting supplies for 2 weeks. So that's your stay box. The get home bag is the one we just talked about. It's the supplies you're going to need to make that walk home comfortable. And then the last thing I believe in is a go bag. My go bag is what we grab if we have a house fire and we are running out the front door and we have an extra second to grab it, or somebody in my house is jumping in an ambulance because we need to go to the hospital. I do not have a go bag that I can grab and walk out of the house and survive an earthquake for 2 weeks. I can't carry that much water. 1 gallon of water is 8 pounds. I can't carry 2 weeks worth of water. I am not bugging out. There's no place I can go. I can't evacuate. I live in the middle of a city. The only time you would evacuate is if you had some heads up and significant heads up, at least 5 to 10 to 30 minutes. Really, our disasters, we sit tight, we shelter in place. So again, Seattle doesn't really evacuate. It's not something we really plan to do. Recovery plan, real quick. So this is about post earthquake and what FEMA can and cannot do for you. FEMA does not make you whole. They will help you with housing for about 18 months. That's the whole FEMA trailer thing that we all hear about. They will not fix your house. They will give you a grant, meaning you don't have to pay it back. It is $32,000, and it is not to fix your house. It is to cover the things that insurance doesn't cover, like transportation back and forth to your hotel room or your FEMA trailer, medical expenses or dental expenses that aren't covered by insurance, funeral expenses, things that you have to buy because you're living in a FEMA trailer for 18 months. That's what that $32,000 covers. It does not go towards fixing your house. They can offer you loans through the Small Business Administration. They are loans, meaning you pay them back. You have to have a $200,000 real estate loss, but it does not make you whole. And again, it's a loan. So not only do you more than likely still have a mortgage, but now you have a Small Business Administration loan. So FEMA does not make you whole. Please don't count on FEMA to bring you back to where you were. This was my first thought when I got to Seattle and realized that earthquakes were a thing here. I thought, I'm just going to walk away from my mortgage. In the foreclosure world, there are two things. There are recourse and non-recourse states. A recourse state means that you are liable for the debt even if you walk away. A non-recourse state means that the bank or the mortgage company or whomever can't do anything other than foreclose on your property and sell it and get what they can out of it. We sort of live in a non-recourse state, sort of. Here's my example. You owe $300,000 on your mortgage still. There's a big earthquake, your house is uninhabitable, you're not safe to live in. You decide to go live with your Aunt Jenny in Arizona. You stop paying your mortgage, your house goes into foreclosure, they sell the house for $100,000. You still have $200,000 on your mortgage. A non-judicial foreclosure means that the judge doesn't get anything, the issue stops there. But we are not in that kind of a state. They can do a judicial foreclosure here, which means that they go to a judge and they say, we sold the property for $100,000. They still owe $200,000 on their mortgage. Can you help us get our money back? And they can put a lien on your salary, your retirement, your whatever. They can garnish your wages and they can get that $200,000 back. So there really is no walking away from your mortgage here in the state of Washington. So that was my plan A. So that's why I'm involved in disaster planning, because I can't just walk away from my mortgage. If you have refinanced your house, go talk to your lawyer, because I am not a lawyer. Keep learning. This is a class that I teach through North Seattle College. It's 4 hours. It's everything you've learned here plus more. It's even more in depth than what we've been doing here. It is $30. There's still time to register if you're interested. I sent you the link. There's another class coming up. Again, I teach at the Seattle Community College. It's Saturday, May 1st, $29, and it's how to create that rapid exit plan. If you had to leave your house for a fire or a medical emergency, what can you grab to A, make your life better, and B, reduce regrets? Class next week is preparing with neighbors and emergency communication hubs. So it's the neighborhood level and the community level. Very interesting stuff. Passion of mine. It's next Wednesday at 7 p.m. That's all for tonight.